One thing that we've learned historically is that oftentimes industries and corporations have been giving full use and ability to do whatever they want with our public waterways and resources. We see this particularly in the Duwamish River, which is an incredibly industrialized river and it's Seattle's only river. What we find is that areas like the Duwamish River, you can't fish from the river, so folks in low-income communities, folks who do it for cultural reasons, are not allowed to fish and recreate in the way that folks in other parts of the Puget Sound are.
Also looking at things like, for example, the sewage treatment plants, are they taking care of what they're supposed to do so that that stuff isn't coming out into the water? I actually learned something new today, which is that in some of the older areas, some of the sewage can get mixed during high rain or high water season. So there is the opportunity for raw sewage to get pumped straight into our waterway. So that's kind of a bummer.
Most of the stuff that we see when we're volunteering here is a lot of the stuff that you're seeing in terms of runoff from the streets. So a lot of just city pollution, people's trash and that sort of thing. But obviously we're aware that, it's technically legal to pollute, which is kind of the sketchy truth.
With agriculture, a lot of it, we're talking about pesticide drift or things coming from upstream, and it becomes a lot more difficult to pinpoint who exactly is the culprit. And so for that, it's a bit of a new frontier in figuring out how we can best work with agriculture, with farms, and to make sure that they're in compliance and what makes sense monitoring-wise. One possibility is looking at groundwater contamination at manure lagoons, but again, this is all nothing we've necessarily touched yet. But it is definitely a new frontier, and it is an existing source of pollution to the waterways. So really, the work that we can do, the work that nonprofits can do, is dependent oftentimes on whatever funding sources are there. What happened this last political session is a big grant known as PPG got cut from the state funding, and it meant that a lot of nonprofits are struggling to be able to do the community work. And what that grant focuses specifically is on pollution prevention programs. And so for us, we have this Clean Marina program that we do that helps make sure that marinas are in compliance and they're being proactive. Funding for that has been cut, so then it becomes a lot more difficult to do that work, to be proactive about things. In order to tackle the big social issues, we need to tackle them on all fronts: environmental, social, political, etc. And so it's all part of the same thing. Yeah.